Hello, everyone. I'm Marilyn, and I'm going to be talking about the theory I chose, which is Reconstructionism, critical thinking, and the educator theorist who fully developed it is Paulo Freire. So, Reconstructionism, critical theory. What is it? It's a philosophy that emphasizes the addressing of social concerns and a quest to create a better society in a worldwide democracy. So teaching and learning is motivated by cognitive reception to what and how it is learned. Students attain knowledge by examining context to social influences that motivate their critical thinking. I want to share some background information. I call this the roots, what influenced Freire's theory. The philosophy of social reconstructionism was founded by Theodore Bramlett in a reaction against the realities of World War II, based on a kind of society Adolf Hitler and his counterparts Mussolini wanted to have for the world. Hitler, of course, we know the history. He was a dictator of Germany who inflicted genocide on groups of people, mainly of the Jewish faith, and also Jehovah's Witnesses. Anyone who biologically was different than him. Paulo Freire gave the theory an extra heartbeat because he attached a critical thinking module to it, understanding how if people are oppressed to the point where they can be annihilated or killed, then changes in our way of thinking and learning had to happen. The time for change. Freire was born 1921 and transitioned 1997. Freire knew what it was like to be poor, but he also knew that education and literacy was a vehicle that could drive social change and to create a more diverse society. Freire wrote a book in 1968 called The Pedagogy of the Oppressed. He uses the metaphor of the banking system and depositor and depositee. The depositor being the educator, depositee being the students, the learner. The banking approach is a metaphor that suggests students are considered bank accounts that should remain open to deposit by the teacher. He moves on to reject this approach, claiming it insults in the dehumanization of student and teacher relationship. In other words, if students are just sitting down and listening for memory, they are not given the ability to critically think and give thought to what they're learning. The banking model of teaching. Teachers embark on knowledge, deposited information because they're considered the experts, which means the teachers are the narrators. Students are the objects who are the receiver. Students are passive because they just listen. The teacher is the all-knowing. The student's likelihood for this type of teaching and learning is going to lead to boredom, no engagement, because what is deposited becomes simple narrations to be memorized. The banking model of teaching also emphasis of what the learner is predictable for what the learner is going to learn. And the students now, they're filled with the knowledge, but they don't know how to use the knowledge. For example, 4 times 4 equals 16. Why does it equal 16? Because you have 4 parts of 4 multiplied by the same number. It needs to be more thinking through the process. There's no investigative inquiry on the part of the student, and words become lifeless. Okay, so this teaching models lead the students to be the ones oppressed, and the teachers are the oppressors. Such approaches leads, as I mentioned earlier, to the breakdown of humans as learners, and it doesn't give for equal fairness in the world that we live in today. I call this slide my liberation critical thinking, because at this point we want to move away from the teacher just depositing information, and we want to move now to the point where the teacher does deposit information, but the student receives the information and can pull apart what it is he or she's being taught. And they do this by reinventing questions, formulating questions. Students can now pose questions to teachers or pose questions that they think they want to answer. Students should be able to bring prior knowledge through prior learning from core subjects into the learning community that they are currently being taught. Teachers are the motivating factors. Teachers should not just stand and teach lifeless. They should incorporate critical thinking tools and encourage students to think critically. With the liberation of critical thinking, the teacher and the students build a new relationship, okay, one of mutual respect and understanding. The teacher is cognizant of cultural differences and welcomes new learning. Students gain tolerance for others' differences, and they're able to coexist in the learning environment, they will understand how to coexist in the real world once they transition from school. The perception of teaching and learning allows students to mature in subjects. Okay, and students now begin to use metacognitive thinking and questioning skills. They assess themselves, they're able to interact with their peers, and they take on a whole new approach to learning holistically as the learning transitions and becomes more of a holistic learning. Within this constructivism critical theory, the view of knowledge. The knowledge is constructed within social contents through interactions with the knowledge of the community. The view of learning, the integration of students into knowledge community, collaborative assimilation. This accommodates a new information from their peers as well, from peers. Working in a collaborative fashion, each one learns from each one teaches one, peer-to-peer work. The view of motivation. Motivating teaching and learning in this fashion brings the intrinsic and extrinsic goals can be attained. Students become more confident. If a student is able to relate to context, whether in all core subjects, they can bring what they have learned in ELA over to social studies. For example, ELA, a student, we could be working on character traits. What are character traits? And then once transfer that over into social studies, you learn about different kingdoms. You may learn about a particular leader, how he governed his country, and the character traits that led him to govern his country that way, and so forth, and how to get a clearer understanding of why people do what they do and how they do it. Within this model, the view of motivation continues because students get a clear understanding of how the classroom and how the environment and where they live in connects to the classroom. And they start to think about ways to problem solve in all core subjects. I find that with this constructivism model, it's mostly attracted to teachers of social studies, political science, and as well as writing. Peers exchange ideas through collaboration, as mentioned before. Don't be the same, be better, meaning if peers can learn from each other, teachers can learn from students as well. You're no longer the expert alone because you're teaching students to become experts themselves. This is Black History Month, February. I decided to put this to practice. I told the 5th grade students I work with we needed to come up with a project for Black History Month. I told them that the project needed to have 3 things. They had to choose a person of interest, they had to write an expository essay, and that they had to integrate technology. The students wrote down ideas, they discussed among themselves, and they reported back to me. I found that the students were so engaged in this project. They started the project on the 9th of February. Today they have completed the project. Students were able to agree upon what they wanted. One half of the class wanted to focus on a particular person alone, versus the other group wanted to focus on large numbers of people. And they came to a decision that they would choose the most interesting person and why that person made an impact in the world we live in today. And my role was the facilitator of this project. I found that because students were able to use their metacognitive skills, they were able to come up with the ideas on their own. One student suggested that he wanted to wear, if they could come in character. I said, absolutely. Students will be wearing the character of that person for the day. And because they have a say-so, they have a buy-in in this project, it made them want to do it more. And they got excited about teaching and learning. In summary, Reconstructionism and critical theory allows educators to teach students how to appreciate life experiences, take in problem solving through dialogue and critical reasoning. Students are encouraged to collaborate texts and have mutual respect for each other and the practitioner as well as themselves. They use metacognitive skills as they focus on their own community and the world around them. Change is never easy, just as controversial social issues are. Education is to be the driving force to develop tomorrow's leaders as well as world leaders. Thank you for watching my presentation.